Thank you.
It's original.
It is original. That's why I'm walking around with it.
No, I was picking on his signature. Did you hear anything back about how John Means was?
He's still in the hospital. My wife and daughter are watching his cat.
Okay.
So it's been a while, and I don't know. He didn't seem too good going in, so if he gets released, it might be to either full-time care at home or he might be going to an assisted facility.
Okay.
That was the second time in 2 days the paramedics were in his house. And he's not.
Probably both. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think I thanked you the other night, but thank you for taking care of someone that way.
Yeah.
I know that's who you are.
My pleasure.
So he felt bad in his basement?
Yeah.
I took him to the.
I just wanted to get this taken care of before the meeting. It's the signature page for the bond.
I was
the
out
fire
working
truck,
in his
so,
court. I think it was.
It's just the official.
Right, this is
And he
what we
heard
did.
this moaning and calling.
Yep, this is the
We
official.
looked out and there was John laying in. his
It's like, oh, you let's get it.
That's fine.
Be right on the table afterwards.
Trying to get someone's attention.
That happens to a family friend of
Sure.
ours too, like with the field dogs.
Breakfast.
Put in my pocket.
Yeah.
My brother's a
Wheelchair hit his ice and slid into the ditch. And then for hours, waiting for someone to just hear him. Steve.
If you can't get in for a couple days to sign the warrant again, just send me a text. And I'll.
Which one?
Come in on Thursday.
I came in,
This is the official version.
yeah, but I signed it.
Okay.
I came in and reviewed it on Thursday morning.
No, let me do this.
Oh, I know, I wasn't there on Wednesday. I did send an email to Teresa, she let me know on Tuesday. She said,
Just send me a text and I'll
can
just
you,
get it. It's fine.
I mean, it does, it's meant to be like,
what's that?
it's meant to be pretty snappy.
Snappy.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I don't mind.
Yeah, I would always
I
text
really
Catherine when I
don't.
was in
Okay,
the
that's so
mines.
funny, because I thought,
She'll probably say, oh, it's fine.
that's
But
what she said. So I texted her, email, she emailed her back on Tuesday night, and she said like Tuesday afternoon. And so I emailed her back, so can't come tomorrow, come in Thursday. Here Thursday morning. By the way, speaking of which, okay, but I understand now.
okay.
I will email Sean to them in a second. That's what you said, right? Did I hear that right?
No, you know.
Oh,
text me.
you.
I'll come.
I can sometimes.
I can come anytime.
Teresa will text me if she knows.
I forgot. that you-
Not done yet.
Yeah,
So anyway,
Very
you wanted to
cool.
say?
I want to say.
it's gonna be a big
on the
endeavor.
warrant, Like, years.
Was the other one,
15 or 16, the one that was like.
Sunny's before?
Yes.
Good, because I realized tonight, I did
Coming out.
the 17, 18, run there. Oh, wait a minute, it's on the agenda,
Yeah, that was.
because it's been so long between meetings.
I got it.
Right,
I
I-
got 15, 16.
Good. Then I just thought, oh, wow, now really screwed, she's already inside the point.
I can't be without it.
Okay. Bill, are we ready?
Oh, why is it?
So it's just got so much
I don't,
to do.
Yeah,
nobody heard me?
I'm already standing up.
There's like an echo.
Bill?
Yeah. No,
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, the secret knock.
can you hear that echo, Bill and Liz? Because we're getting a terrible feedback out here.
I think it might be the monitor. With the wall, can't hear.
Okay, so,
Oh. So we got the knock.
yeah, but there's a crazy echo.
Is your volume up?
Interesting.
No, there's
No.
Carol's echo.
If everybody's quiet,
Oh, yeah.
But if everyone's quiet, we won't hear the echo.
but you need one person to talk.
My dog did that long,
It's kind of hurting my head a little.
Well, this isn't too bad. The school had to postpone their Maria testing because they had kids getting booted out of the online program.
Oh, geez.
So this is not bad. This will pass.
We can live with echo.
No.
No.
I-
Yes.
I don't like hearing myself as it is, never mind on repeat. Yeah, that's enough, right?
That's right.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong sitting here.
Well, you're gonna tell us to stand in a second. so-
Well, there's nobody here, so. It was.
Oh, is it just that TV coming back out?
Yeah, because it's gone now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right.
All righty,
No, it's
so
not gone.
are we live on the,
Yes.
oh.
Oh, we are.
Great. Well, hi, everybody. It is now 6:32 and I'll call this meeting of the select board to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. To begin the meeting, I'd just like to remind the members of the public who are only online tonight so far, that we do have a public participation guideline. It's at the bottom of the agenda. You can click on that and there's a link that'll take you right there. Just letting you know the guidelines that we adopted at a prior meeting. We'll move on to our meeting minutes, number 24-038.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for August 21st and September 18th, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of, I just lost my, the meeting minutes. Oh, great, of August 21st. Is there an
And September
and
18th.
September 18th? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. We have warrants 24-039. We have a split presentation tonight. Sean, if you take us through the end of September and Steve will start October.
Yeah, so I have warrants 15 and 16 for the total of. That's right. Dave wins the prize first. The big pieces out of that were we completed the library payment for the egress at $73,975. We had our quarterly employee health payment for $8,100. There was $3,600 towards Gold Palmer for sidewalk planning. And then we had our annual Trio payment, which is the software system we use in the office, of $19,116.
Would take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve that warrant.
Dave, is the number, I think we have to say the
15,
number.
Sorry.
It's okay. We're all there tonight. Warrant 15.
And 16.
Okay, 15 and 16.
15 and 16.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve
Wow.
warrants 15 and
Everybody needs
16.
I need more.
Yes, it's good we're going back on our every 2-week meeting schedule now. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Take it away, Steve.
All right, so I have warrants 17 and 18. Good size number, $777,132.73. And it was unusual in one respect in that the RSU payment, which we had for $338,000 and change, was not the biggest payment of the month. It was Kennebec County Treasurers. That's our full payment of the year for our dues for Kennebec County. It was $355,185. And so that was almost 700,000 of the $777,000 total. There was some usuals in there. There's like $2,692 to Archie's for hauling waste debris to Norwich Walk, $2,363 to Eco Maine, and $11,823 to Waste Management. So that's all transfer station related. We had some of our donations that the town voted on to approve in the June warrant made to the Sexual Assault Crisis and Support, 30 Mile Watershed and Family Violence Center. And we had one big repair, had to repair a hydraulic hose on the transportation backhoe, and apparently it was not easy. Had some weird part that I don't really know what it's called. Dave, you should have been reading that. You probably know, but I don't know. Some weird part that was unexpected, and so they had to do a temporary fix while they brought the part back to identify it, and it wound up being $1,684.84. So, I don't know. And then we had our last payment to CAI Technologies for the GIS data model conversion. So that's done. And then also another transfer station related thing, $5,228 to KB cog for the hazardous waste collection. That was done in July, but we paid it just then. And the last one is $4,900 to Mainland Development Consultants. That was for the Plains Road drainage work. And I did check with Eric on that. I was hoping that it would be, covered under one of the disaster declarations or whatever, but it was not. So, but as he said, that money goes to making it. So hopefully next time we get one of those big ones, it doesn't cause all kinds of damage. So,
Yeah.
and so anyhow, yeah, so that's a story.
I'll make a motion to approve warrant 17 and 18 for the sum of $777,132.73.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve warrant 17 and 18 and the amount stated. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to add, thank you, Steve, for the great explanation. I think it's nice to hear that we're paying all of those things that the voters approved. Though I think they may be sort of the little things, but I think they're the ones that are important to people. All of those different organizations that petition us for funding. So hopefully the townspeople are aware that we follow through on things.
Be nice, huh?
All those in favor? Unanimous. And we will move on to communications. We have time for the select board to present any general information. Does anyone have any announcements?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I was just trying to make sure I found all the details. So I just wanted to highlight the Readfield Halloween Spooktacular event that is happening on Saturday, October 28th. So that'll be starting off at the fairgrounds with the trunk or treat from 4:30 to 6. At the same time, we'll have the pumpkins aglow from 4:30 to 6. Now my chat's opening. And that's how presented by Readfield Unit Meeting House and the Readfield Community Library. And then the movie night down at the fairgrounds will be hosted from 6 to 8, and will be a showing of E.T. So it will be good. And if you haven't seen the trailer on the Readfield Recs Facebook page yet for that event, then you're missing out. It's pretty cool.
Well,
Also, there was a unveiling of the new scoreboard at the middle school, which the Readfield Recreation Association had donated some funds towards. So that was really nice to see those put in place and some acknowledgement from the school to the rec board.
That's great. Thank you for the updates. And that was the 28th, you said?
Saturday, October 28th.
And you said 4:30 to 6?
4:36 is the trunk or treat, and then 6 to 8 is the movie.
Okay, seeing nothing else, we will move on. I believe next is staff communication, the town manager's report, and then the treasurer's report. And then Chip is here to give us the CEO report. So I'll give you guys the next 15 minutes.
All right, thanks. I'll try to take 10 and leave Chip 5, and I will request, that's how I am, I guess. I request that we take the automobile graveyard agenda items out of order so Chip can roll through that and we can move him along back home.
Move him
we
along.
wanna get him out here as soon as possible.
But
All right, we'll consider that.
okay, thanks. Just so this is for generally the last 2-week period since our last board meeting. It's been pretty active. I'll start off with administration and personnel. A lot of this does look forward as well to some important dates. We have a staff meeting scheduled for Thursday, October 19th in the afternoon. We have a rabies clinic coming up at the town office Wednesday, October 25th. Starting at 4:00 p.m. Pre-registration is required. So if you need to get your animals vaccinated, your dogs vaccinated, this is a great chance to do so. Vaccination is required for registration, which is coming up as well. So a state referendum is being held on Tuesday, November 7th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Kents Hill School Alphon Center. Absentee ballots are available. There are a number of items that I'm not very familiar with at this point, but it is a state referendum and not a local referendum. The town will be sponsoring a Veterans Day event at the town office at 11 a.m. on November 11th, 2023. Please arrive a few minutes early. And we're encouraging folks, if they haven't had a chance to, or just as a matter of doing so with this event, to visit one of our cemeteries. The veterans' graves will all be marked with flags. Visit the stones, learn about some of the history if you have a chance. But this is going to be a great event. I do want to thank Angelica Pittman and Carol Dorenbos for helping out with this. Carol's coordinating desserts for the event, and Angelica's taking the lead on putting this together, which is, I appreciate. She's also a veteran, so just wanted to say thank you for that. The town office will be closed Friday, November 10th, and the library and transfer stations will be closed Saturday, the 11th, in observance of the Veterans Day holiday. The town's comprehensive plan, which was submitted for review by the state or to the state this spring, was approved. So I wanted to make that announcement. That means it was found to be consistent with their guidelines and planning priorities for the state. We're pursuing more direct approaches to getting information from Charter Spectrum, including a letter from our town attorney, so we can be more effective in negotiating a franchise renewal. We've been trying for a number of months to get reliable maps, customer information, and even confirmation that they've met the current obligations, and we haven't gotten that information. So we're working to I won't say force, but to put a little bit more pressure on them so that we can actually be in a negotiating position instead of just having to accept their word for what they say they provided. So that's an unfortunate but necessary direction we've had to take. The budget process is ramping up, and we're already seeing some signs that it's going to be a challenging year. I think most of us expected that as we continue to kind of come out of the last 3 years of COVID impacts, but we're seeing some signs it's going to be challenging. So that's why I think the planning work that we're doing, the goal setting happening tonight, is that much more important. I want to acknowledge in this section the passing of Ralph Eno, and just state that he was a true friend of mine, a real mentor to me, and an asset to our community. He helped keep me sane through some of the most challenging things I've ever dealt with as a manager. And so I just want to say thanks to him, and that he'll be missed. Moving on to roads, traffic, parking, and safety. Winter maintenance planning is in full swing. We have updated the plowing contract and ordered salt. Truck inspections will be happening this week. And again, Scott Horn is our contractor for that. Roadside mowing is complete, and we're moving on to brush. The Church Road sidewalk on October 2nd went well, and we received a lot of constructive comments. The engineers are moving forward with a revised and modified plan in response to some of those comments, and moving on to a more detailed design. Now that they've got confirmation that generally speaking, what we have is acceptable and workable. So we'll have another, hearing in January or February for that project. We're making progress on the Pea Ridge and Nickerson Hill intersection. We've tried to be accommodating to the property owner whose property our road is on for about 10 feet. We'd like to maintain the aesthetic needs that he is looking for, but also make sure that we're not putting anything unsafe in the roadway or right of way. So that's a big part of what we've been working on there. We've applied for a free flashing sidewalk or crosswalk sign through the Maine DOT, and that was in response to recommendations from a few residents, Larry Perkins being one. And so we've applied for that. We will likely be receiving one of those, and we'll be purchasing at least one additional to try on Route 17, where we have crosswalks that are pretty heavily trafficked, and where we have a lot of need. We're beginning to work with the road committee on a traffic calming policy. Traffic calming is any kind of device or mechanism or sign that helps to manage road speeds and even travel orientation. But the gist of it is that we've had a lot of people request speed bumps in front of their houses, things like that. And you can't just throw a speed bump any place. And so we think it's time, as we're getting more and more of these requests, that we look at, well, what is about right for Readfield. What's the scope of things we might use? How can we apply them? How can we do it fairly, consistently, and with some criteria that are actually based in science and speed studies and things like that. So that's been great. And I do want to thank the road committee and Matt Seams, the deputy road commissioner, for their work over the past couple months in helping pull some of these projects together. It's been really valuable. Let's see. Oh, and Thunder Castle Road, we don't have speed limit signs there, so we are going to put those up. Apparently, it's been decades and we haven't had any. So now we're going to go back to the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and people will drive 45 or 50. But in any event, moving on to maintenance, exterior work at the library is complete with the exception of some electrical work. And town staff and volunteers will be working over the next 6 weeks on the interior of the building to get that ready for our end of November target date for finishing some of those renovations and cosmetic work, I call it. But that's that. And then cemetery work is taking a big priority, high importance over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for Veterans Day, making sure those cemeteries are in top-notch shape and getting ready to be put to bed for the season. Moving on to transfer station, this is my last section on the town manager's report. We had a solid waste and recycling meeting last week that was very constructive. We're working on a number of different projects ranging from just getting new stickers for the member towns all the way up to working on capital planning for the canopy over the demolition bins and the compaction equipment that we've been talking about for probably 10, 15 years now, and trying to find a way forward and see if it's even viable. It's a question, but we need to do the work. Otherwise, we won't be prepared to take advantage of it if and when it's ready to happen. Final numbers for the hazardous waste collection day came through. As you noted, we just did the invoice for that. And we had a very productive and well attended, well utilized session. We had 150 plus units disposed of just by the town of Readfield alone. Each one of those is either 5 gallons of liquid or 20 pounds of dry material. So we're talking about a lot of material coming from our community that didn't end up either in the landfill inappropriately or in someone's backyard. So a win there. And then the transfer station staffing has stabilized. We've got fill-in staff, and we're very much looking forward to having full-time back in probably 3 weeks. I said a few, but it's probably gonna be a little bit more than that. But that's my town manager's report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Let's have a quick question about the canopy at the transfer station. When you say it's a question, Amy, I mean, do you have to try to figure out like how much water gets added without having a canopy and compare that to the cost of a canopy? Is that what you mean?
We're gonna be doing some of that work, but that infrastructure probably won't necessarily ever pay for itself from a cost savings perspective. It's probably gonna have a 50-year life. It's probably gonna save some money. But really it's about operations. And I mean, if you add in the cost of equipment damage because of ice dams and things like that and rust, it may pay for itself, but it would be a long horizon, I guess I should put it that way. But really it's about operational efficiency, and a lot of the problems we have at the facility with the compaction equipment are a result of weather, either corrosion or because of the salt we have to put down because there's ice underneath there, or the ice actually building up and blowing out things, or the compactor getting hit by a can because there's ice and the truck skids 2 feet sideways when it's trying to put it on the equipment. So it's that kind of issue we're trying to avoid, in addition to the weight. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's a canopy over what? I can't envision what.
All of the
That means-
bins up to the shed. So the two that compact the solid waste and the recycling. And then there are the 2 demo bins, because they all fill up with water and they all get rained on for all the equipment and the pads that things are moved back and forth on.
And it is something, like I said, that we're gonna have to figure out if we're willing or able to pay for that, along with our partner towns, because this isn't just the town of Readfield making the decision like this, it's our member towns as well. So it's gonna be a big dollar item, but it's something, again, that we've been talking about for quite some time, and it needs to be looked at. So
Are there other transfer stations that do that or have that?
Yes.
Seems very novel.
um,
Okay,
Most do.
do they?
Yeah.
Quite a few do, yeah.
And we would be looking at approximately half of the cost. I think Readfield pays 52% and the other two towns combined pay 48. So, and we would be looking at having to finance. We're not looking to,
Yeah.
nobody has the money to just pay that outright. So, but we don't know what
What
the
that
cost
means
will
yet,
be, so we don't know what to look at for financing. And we've been kicking this can down the road for at least a decade. So. I have a quick question on the library. So will the finishing the work include having the lighting done? Have we arranged for the electrician to come in to
Yes,
do
so we've
that?
gotten quotes from the electrician, for the interior and exterior work. They're very close to the original estimate. I think it was 11 or 12,000. That's gonna be grant funded. So that's a good thing. Like 95% of that will be covered by the grant, so.
Perfect. And so that's, we're still shooting for our tree lighting as the completion date.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
are, we are.
Eric, I want to swing back to the transfer station. I read in the meeting notes from the solid waste committee that other towns mentioned maybe training staff in order to support um,
Yeah.
staffing at the shared station. At what, it was kind of vague in there, the minutes, and I would like
Yeah.
to know more, because if we are always doing the overtime, and how does that kind of look? And it seems like it might be a good idea to me.
Yeah, really, because we're a shared facility, because they're actually paying a portion of my salary and a portion of any of the additional staff time that goes into it. From a financial perspective, it does make sense for them to contribute potentially maintenance type staff. So Fayette would be the most likely to be able to contribute to that. And we would look at cross training, basically saying, well, here's how you run the compactor, here's how the fee schedule works, here's how the operation works. And so if we had a need and they had availability, perhaps one of their people could come in and help keep the place running if we had any of our full-time folks not able to be in. And I think that's a good idea operationally and financially, but really operationally, Wayne isn't in a position to contribute at this point because they don't have any staff. They run everything on a shoestring, and they just don't have the resources that other towns have. Yeah.
The discussion came up primarily around trying not to bring Eric in when we have a
Yeah.
real crisis of staffing. And when we repeatedly have employees that are out and you're pulling your maintenance staff to be at the transfer station, and they're not getting their maintenance work done, or they're doing their maintenance work and working overtime. Overtime costs more. We'd probably be paying overtime if it was another employee from another town also, but at least it wouldn't be, it would be spreading out the pain or the joy as you look at it. So,
Absolutely.
okay, Eric, well, there's the 15 minutes for everything.
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna run through my treasurer's
no
report
problem.
really quickly. I'm sorry, guys, but this.
No,
oh,
it was
yeah.
a good report.
I will, I'll be quick. And fortunately, I'm starting to get more familiar with the new account system that we've been working with. So check reconciliation, everything looked good, no issues there to report. The town is moving forward with another CD, this time through Northeast Bank as opposed to Androscoggin, in part to help diversify our banking relationships, but also to finalize this schedule of having laddered CDs. So we have something maturing every 3 months or so. So we can always have available cash, but also take advantage over the next, I'd say, year plus of the very good interest rates we're seeing. Audit, that's moving along nicely. Teresa's done a lot of work on that, more than she has in the past, because our auditors have had some technical issues and she's stepped right up and helped them. So I really appreciate that. And then bonds, we did receive final authorization, and the board signed the official document this evening for the borrowing for the fire truck for the $348,000. And the rate was just under what we had budgeted. We budgeted 4% back in June, and it came in at 3.84. So that's just where we want to be, close, but a little bit under. And I would have preferred 2, but that wasn't in the cards. Comments, the report covers the month of September. We should be about 25% expended. Our bank accounts look a little thin, but the reason is because we have pulled $1 million out and put it into these CDs. Again, the money's still available, it just doesn't show in our checking account. And we still have a very healthy balance there, over $2 million to help maintain operations and get us through the leaner months until February when the second half of taxes come through. And we did calculate all that out along with capital projects. I did mention real estate taxes coming in. They are coming in higher than last year, but that's because we had a higher tax rate this year due to primarily the RSU, but also there are some municipal increases there as well. So I wanted to make that clear. Transfer station revenues in the past were reported as being down, and technically that was correct, but I was missing the fact that receipting was coming in showing the full revenue amount, and I was only looking at the normalized revenue line that actually draws out the revenue that was attributed to the other member towns. So that was my mistake, but we're actually doing well. We're up relative to last year, and that's a good thing because we did increase our fees in January to help account for increasing costs. And so we're actually looking pretty well in that respect. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear that I messed up, but the transfer station is actually performing quite well with revenues at this point. Let's see, motor vehicle payments are down for both the month and the year to date. That rate of kind of decline is slowing a little bit, but it still does show a little bit of weakness in the economy. People aren't buying cars the way they were last year. The expenses appear to be on track, and Parks and Recreation is the one that looks to be off or over 50% expended, but that's because our heaviest user of that is the beach and beach staff, and July, August, September are 3 very busy months for that department, so that's why it looks like it's ahead of schedule, even though it's actually fairly well on track budget-wise. And then we have the summary numbers, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I really like that budget versus actual table at the bottom.
Isn't that helpful? It's better than those funky year-to-date comparisons.
To me, it just makes more sense than, because who knows what happened last year in this month as opposed to it happened 3 weeks later in the next month. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carol.
I just have a question on, like, going back to the investments piece. So
Yeah.
when things are like moved around, and we've been very successful, you've been very successful moving stuff for a better return. But how does that come about? Is that, do we have an investment person that's like, hey, I'm recommending we do this, or what's the process that goes?
Well, so we have an investment policy, and the policy basically says that banking type investments are typically managed by the town manager with the awareness of the select board. Things like investments in higher risk stocks, bonds, things like that are subject to pretty strict restrictions. Things that fall into that category are things like our trust funds that we invest on behalf of the cemetery. And those are managed through a financial advisory firm. And so those are on track. And we try to report out once a year on that. And actually, it's probably about time to have Sam Tippett, who's our primary financial advisor, come in and give an update. So we have a policy for all of that. I'd say, I hope that answers the question. If you need more detail, let me know.
I just think we've been very good, but sometimes, like you said, if it's something high risk and we lose a lot, I just didn't know unilaterally if that's part of the budget process. So we've talked about it here some, and we did have a gentleman that took us through some of the accounting methods we were changing and stuff like that. I just see some of these, and a CD is pretty benign. I mean,
Yeah, and so I
risk.
guess I'll
So-
say outside of the trust funds, we don't have any high risk investments. I
Yeah.
haven't been willing to, and the board hasn't been willing to invest municipal funds in those type of investments. We could, if we wanted to try to find some, moderate growth or low growth stocks, but that would be a discussion that I would have with the select board. It wouldn't be anything I would do unilaterally.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I
Because
just
it's not
was
part of the
curious.
investment policy.
Okay.
Right?
Well, it's contemplated in the investment policy, but it's the more risk, the more oversight, right? So
Right.
investing in, moving bank accounts, consolidating stuff, opening up a checking account someplace. Those are things that I can manage as town manager because they're low risk and there's already a ton of oversight. And all of those things are FDIC insured. and so on. So the CDs, as you noted, benign, safe. And so those are things that I've been managing, I'm letting the board know, but I wouldn't do any higher risk. I can't do any higher risk investing without select board approval. So,
Gotcha. And Sam's still involved with that? I didn't know because I haven't seen him. in
yeah,
a
he's
while.
still involved. Yeah.
Okay.
We usually hear from him once a year.
I don't think we've heard from him since I've been on, but
Possibly.
okay. No problem.
So
Okay.
there, yeah.
Thank you. Chip, we're up for you now. This is our code enforcement officer report for the first quarter of the year, July through September.
I really like your written report, Chip, just so
Thank
you know. Thanks. I like how it's formatted.
So we're gonna start off, I guess, with the quarterly report. I was corrected, but I guess this is the first quarter, but I see it as the annual
It
calendar
works.
third quarter, so sorry, guys. Pretty impressive, and I didn't give you numbers to look back on, but we've had a few things that have happened this year, and that is construction's picked up, and remodel and home improvement has picked up quite a bit, and solar activity has really gone up with home solar panels on the roofs and things. So that, along with my increase in the fees that you so nicely approved, has really brought up the numbers to help sustain my department to the point where if it does a little bit better, I might pay for myself. But we'll see. You shake your head. So new home construction's up, solar is way up, remodeling is up, and plumbing, it's about the same. There are a lot of new septic things going in. There's a new awareness of the septic and the water with a lot of the events we've had over the last 2 or 3 years. And the realization that a lot of those tanks around the lakes are old steel tanks that aren't really there. So we're getting really good participation from the residents, very little pushback. And it's really heartening because I've been told that in the past, a lot of people forgoed, whatever, getting permits and things, but I've got really good feedback, people calling in, do I need a permit? If anybody asks you all, bottom line, if it's $2,000 or more of structural work, it triggers a permit. And I tell everybody, it behooves them to get a permit, even if it's a little less. It's on their record. Their structures are on in the records, and it's good for them. If they refinance, they move, or if they're just, hanging around and they got a neighbor that's being asking for it. So it's all working out real well. I've had very none pushback on our increases, even though we almost doubled it in some cases. Everybody's accepted it very well. So I think that says a lot for people, how they're taking it, how it's looking. So I'm very pleased with how we're doing with permitting and so forth. Special issues overall, the solar project over Sincarfa's over on Main Street, finally signed off on. We held their feet to the fire. They gave us a hard time in the fall when their spring and late winter spring when their coordinator just beamed up, and we went 2.5 months with no assistance and all the questions that were coming up because we knew final approval was coming in the summertime. Finally, I got a call, or made a call over and over and over, got one person to answer, and they're like, oh yeah, this was like in June. Dan kind of disappeared on us in March, and nobody's been answering his emails or anything. So they started helping out, getting things done. The board was very hard on them, and they did a lot, added more trees, higher trees, and so that's finally done. I believe sometime in the middle of this month, they'll be going online. Another question that came up, you might have heard, is that many residents are like, well, what are we getting out of this? We thought there was going to be a reduction or whatever we could sign up for. The program was very poorly launched 3 times, and they were given the ultimatum, if they wanted their certificate of use, they had to do it again. So they did put out a mail-in that hopefully reached most of the town. And I think they have people out again going out. It's pretty difficult. I don't know how much people save, but it's there. If people want to look into it, it's online. There's a phone number they can get. But it comes down to if they go for this program, they're going to get 2 different bills. They have to give a credit card. So, think carefully what you want to do. But there is a program if anybody asks about it. As I said before, residential solar has really picked up. There's a lot of business going on with that. It's interesting. Luckily, your planning board did a really nice job creating a solar ordinance that had foreseen this kind of growth. And the biggest thing with that ordinance is because we don't have many large projects, is the residential solar. And in their wisdom and listening to the fire chiefs of the neighboring towns, our municipal aid, we have a rule that surpasses the national and the state standards, saying that people have to have a 3-foot setback from their ridge and from one side of their roof. And almost 90% of my submissions that I get for permits don't have it in there. They have the 1.5 feet. And I have to call them and remind them that we have this. They push back, but hey, that's the rule, that's the law, that's the ordinance, and they end up doing it. But it does delay them, and they get a little hinky, but it gets done. And I think it's really important, especially when we have municipal aid, that all 4 or 5 fire departments know exactly what the rules are, because they get up on that roof. Those panels are probably not going to be off. There are kill switches, but if there's sunshine out, there's going to be power. So this gives them a little access to get to anything that they might have with roof fires or whatever. So that's working out well, and people are being very cooperative coming in with their permits. New factoid, commercial industrial overlay district. 4 or 5 years ago, planning board created a new overlay district. I think it was originally designed, I could be wrong, but for the what we call these, clipboard factory up the road, in case they ever wanted to expand. Well, it hadn't been used in that time. It was amended once a couple years ago to include solar panels as the tripping point. The tripping point is we don't have anything in this town that's supposed to be over 5,000 square feet in size. So this would allow, if this overlay district was put on top of the underlying district, that they could surpass that if they could go by the rules and the different things that are in the ordinance. Again, it's been dormant until now. We have a new solar project that's going to be occurring, I foresee, over between Carlton Pond and Sylvester Road. Back in the woods, you'll probably never see this one. That's its big advantage. Not quite as big as the one that we just got done with, but it is going to trip the ordinance because the new addition added solar panels to coverage. So obviously most of them go over 5,000 square feet. So what that's going to mean is this new one, funny story, can I do a funny story? We were in the hearing for this new one and they did everything. They crossed every T and dotted every I. Everything was perfect. Hour-long, hour-and-a-quarter meeting. The older woman that was like the marm over the younger guys that were doing the DP and everything got all done. End of their presentation, Paul's like, well, I hate to bring this up at this point, but now I realize that you have to apply for a commercial industrial overlay, and that's going to entail getting that by the board with a new submission and having to go from there to the select board, which you will hear, and from there to a town vote. And this woman just sat there and her eye just went alone. We've been reaching out. We've been working with them. We've talked to Eric about a possible special town meeting in January or February. We're going to help these folks along. We're not discouraging them. Paul and I spent an hour and a half with them this morning on a Zoom call. Anyways, that's this commercial industrial overlay has been, the doors have been open. We have another application that's in that we'll be hearing for this overlay for more storage containers. So you'll probably be hearing that, and hopefully they can get through all the planning board, you and everything else, and they both can get something done by January, February, and everybody be happy. We'll see. Marijuana, it's changed in this town. We started, when the marijuana ordinance went through and everything, all of a sudden we had 2 or 3 applicants for medical marijuana dispensaries. I managed to get out and find 2 of the growing fields and convince them that they got get a permit, and they've been paying. Everybody's been good. This year, we've lost our first marijuana medical dispensary that's over at the depot. They couldn't make a go of it. The property wasn't very friendly to it. Those of you know the property and everything, you'll understand. We're not sure if this one over here, next to the Emporium's gonna make it. We're not sure what the family's gonna do with the property over there, so we might not have any, sales here. And one of the growing fields, the one over on Pine Rest Road, they just didn't show up this year. They built everything out, they did everything, they were gonna, build a house and everything. They beamed up, I don't know where they went, so. Marijuana seemed to, seen its heyday. I guess it's the money's not good or what, I don't know what's going on, but
It went up in smoke.
it went up in smoke. Yes. I think my last item here is the late Bob Batars, as we know, passed away back in August. And he's left his property behind to his kids. His son's been up here looking at it. Man, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. He has got some ideas that Eric will tell you. It's interesting. But it's likely, in my opinion, that you're gonna see the house over here, Old Kent's Hill, get sold as a single-family property. Get done, I'm pretty sure. They're gonna have to find a sellable use for the barn on Mill Street, Mill Street Road. I don't know, guys. I think this town's gonna get hit with affordable housing at some point. We all might wanna think about that. That's just my humble opinion. And also, they gotta find a way to utilize the Emporium. There's been a lot of people that reached out to them about a breakfast shop, a small, shop to open it up again. The building is really hurting, as you know, when we talked to him about it reopening and everything, but probably something could be done over there, but it's gonna be interesting. All 3 of those places are on different lot numbers. They're trying to figure out what to do, but Eric, what was it he wanted to do with it?
Some kind of a piano bar.
That entailed what?
Pianos and beer.
Pianos and cafe stuff. I think he said something
It's
about
usually wine.
Van Halen on piano, which I thought was really
Van
interesting.
Halen and Brahms or
Yeah,
something
so-
like that.
It-
So anyways,
well,
that'll be
again,
interesting
yeah.
to follow and see, but that's a little report for you, so when people in town ask you what's going on here or there, you know. So that's my report. I think things are going well. Any questions on code enforcement?
No, I think it's really helpful to have that report. We haven't had one for, I don't know if we've had one since you've been here. I think we did once, twice, 3 times.
A
Okay.
couple times. We're trying to get back in the habit.
And this is how many years? 5?
Going on 3.
3? Okay, so I guess if you can just revamp this so it goes in a fiscal year rather than a calendar year, that
We'll
would be
do
great. But it's really useful to see that spread over 9 months compared to the last 3. It's really
Yeah.
nice information.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
I
Carol?
have just a couple. So there's like a little line in here about mercury being hard to get rid of, and then the tires
That's
are
the next one. Hold
situation.
on. That's the next.
The whole,
He's
the
getting
next
there.
thing. Oh, okay.
That's the next thing.
We'll go there. That,
I
okay.
gotta sit down and get up.
Go for it, however you want to do it.
Anything on the report?
Oh, I think we're
And
good.
I'd like to move on to automotive graveyards.
Go ahead.
You wanna- Well, we have all those other people waiting. You want to do the graveyards first and then do the appointments?
And public
asking
comment.
the
We still
board
need
We
right
still have
comment as
public
well,
comment
yeah.
too.
But,
Right.
however you want to do it. Yeah.
Just if we can have the, like what's where, I know Kathleen Landrum is trying to make her way back from Kingfield on an emergency, and she's gonna call in when her time is, but she's like, do you know when that's gonna be? And I'm like, I have no idea. So she was just gonna call, because she's not gonna be in an area that can Zoom. So I told her I can let you know when you're almost done.
Chip's already up there.
So,
So
I'm
that's
going to
Whatever you wanna
ask,
do, I'm good.
I'm going to ask if the board is willing to take item 24046, consider the automobile graveyard approvals out of order.
Yep. Sure. Sounds good.
Okay, so we're
do it.
moving down in the packet.
So we didn't have any estimates of when assignments would be?
It won't be long.
30?
This shouldn't take long. This is just a yearly duty that I'm
Yep.
set off to do. And that is to follow up on the permitted auto graveyards, junkyards, and make sure everything is going according to plan and ordinance.
We're on page
Also-
39. Sorry to interrupt. Okay,
I got you.
Thank you.
all set.
So I visit the three areas here in town. Lucas, Cyrus's Antique Auto, and Ken's Dragon. All great people, all take a lot of pride in their work, and it's a real kick to go over there every year and see what's going on. I also, during this time, look at some places around town that need attention. If I had more time, I'd like to be on top of all of those, but most of them are cooperative and do things, and I work with those. But our purpose here tonight is for you to review what I've sent you on the automotive graveyards, because annually I have to go out and inspect them. These people have to fill out sheets that are a real pain in the butt, that are long and everything. We'll talk about mercury. But they've all passed, in my mind, with flying colors. These are not garbage junkyards, as you might, assume. They're all have a different flavor when you go out there. Sorry, guys, but my favorite is Cyrus. As you go out there, and he has got stuff. I mean, ever have a friend that's a car freak, you got to call him up and take him out there, because he's got stuff from the beginning of time. And these cars are, he should have Hollywood coming out there taking these cars out. It's really cool. Anyways, but all of them, Ken and Mark and Scott, all great people. Very impressed with what they've done. Got a lot of rules they got to go by. Accounting for emptying liquids, getting rid of mercury, switches and things, making sure everything's properly labeled, not leaking into the ground. As you know, most of them are back in the woods, and they take good care. They do the stuff they've got to, and it makes my life a little easier. So I initially send them out. It's time to do this. They come in. Luckily, one of them came in early and reminded me. I was like, yeah. So that triggers it. They get their question and answer kind of like thing, that they come back in with their, I believe it's $100 fee that they pay. We schedule them for an inspection. And go out and do that. And then I prepare the approvals for you to sign if everybody approves of going to it. I don't think there was anything really crazy different, because you asked, I will answer. The state has really burdened these guys with a lot of, strict rules, both the DEP, the state itself, and, we've incorporated a lot of these. These guys do the best they can to take care of that. One of them was, mercury switches, which have pretty much gone by, right, guys? Gone by, but they're still in old cars and things. The state makes them take out, account for them, make sure they're stored properly. And originally when they did this, you got to do this for us, and bring it into us. We'll pay you a fee for doing it. Well, first they took the fee away, and then they told them that they're not going to take them anymore, but make sure you take care of them. So these guys are really faced with certain, ordinances and regulations they got to work around. And one of the fixes they do is the guys that come in and crush the cars or take the cars, scrap beyond them, agree to take them. They get a few bucks for them wherever they go. But these guys really do a hell of a job, and that includes catalytic converters. They got new rules on. They're really, they really got a lot to do, and I think we've got 3 owners that really care about what they're doing, have pride in their business, and I thank you guys for what you do. So aside from that, we're here tonight, so you hopefully have read the reports. Trust me that I've gone out and made an effort to, make sure everything's good. It's here. There are the 5 outlayers I've put on the back page of the report. I believe Lee Mack has a business, towing and everything else, so that was Somebody complained about that once. He continues to do it right. Great Northern, I don't know about those people. They're kind of,
Yeah.
watch out for them.
Watch out.
You know, and then the last two, I work with, you know, Al Parks said over the last couple of years, he's gonna come in and get a permit. I believe he's gonna do it finally, because he's gonna be moving some stuff over there. And Zach Hatch, you know, I talked to the guys, come on, get this stuff off the road. You're gonna have to get this, and he usually cleans it up pretty nicely for 6 months, and then it starts to populate again, so. I don't see, you know, he's at the punishment point because he does cooperate, but, you know, I need to work with him on cooperating on his own more, so. That's my report. Any questions are welcome. Once we get done, you'll have a vote to approve these. Once that happens, I'm gonna leave them behind for chairperson to sign, leave them on my desk, and I will deliver them to the folks that are looking for them.
Thanks, Chip.
Questions?
You brought up the tire issue again. Eric, I think you have information on that, but Chip, you're looking for some sort of a, I don't know what the word is there.
Amnesty, I think. is what
Amnesty
he's called,
kind of
right?
event.
More than an
As like a
amnesty.
one-time event or,
A one-time, one weekend event where we get somebody come in. You know, there are places that pay for tires. But, you know, one time when they bring in maybe a few large, you know, trucks, and, you know, people are allowed to bring in, not just these guys, but, you know, town residents and things. You guys know there's a lot of tires around here. And they're, you know, behind bars, they're all over the place. They're not disappearing. You know, some of the farmers use them, but I think the town could definitely, you know, use a good purge of tires. And you know, I've had a few names, but you know, I want to have a little participation by the board to say, hey, that's a good thing to do and to find something. But I think that that would really be a good idea to do at least annually. Take your tires for retirement kind of thing and let these people take them away. I'd want to make it a cost neutral type thing, but I think that it would be a wise thing. These guys get rid of a lot of their tires when they have them crushed. They're allowed to put 4 tires in per car. Real smart, good businessmen over here. So, you know, they get rid of some, but there are, you know, tires accumulated. I know my road was built on tires and they, you know, show their ugly head every now and then. But, you know, they're all around and we, you know, they are a pain, they are gross. As they get older, the mosquitoes, disease and stuff. So you know, I'd like to work towards finding a, you know, a neutral revenue kind of thing that we could maybe once a year have some kind of activity to have somebody come in and do it.
Can I ask you 2 questions? Well, actually, one for you, and that is that this neutral revenue thing, is that a thing that you would find for us?
I enjoy doing something like that. Yeah.
I thought you would, and I thought that'd be great.
Yeah.
And I have one for you guys too. Do you get to put in 4 tires for every motorcycle you scrap also? I was hoping for it.
so by neutral, you mean that you think you could find someone who would take the tires without charging us?
Either that or very low, or maybe, you know, something that would be, you know, well, if you're not going to take them away, but you're going to be selling them, you know, what do you want in addition? And then find, you know, maybe, you know, a small fee for, you know, $1 or $2. Right now, it's pretty expensive to bring them to the dump.
Oh, it's $4 a piece. It's not too bad.
Right.
But
It costs either $3 or $4 per tire for BDS to pick them up, and they're the only recycler really in the state. Other people who take them are like throwing them on a trailer or in a big pickup truck, and they're doing something with them, which is what we're trying to get rid of people doing. So.
Well, people that bring them to the dump usually be 1 or 2, maybe. There are people that have large stockpiles that I've spoken to that said they'd like to get rid of them, but they just can't afford to take them to the dump. So again, I think it's not a big issue, but I know that, you know, junk cars that are sitting around are a big issue to people, and I'm trying to find the time to, you know, hit all those places. But this is one issue I do see, not just with the junkyards, the graveyards, but, you know, different, you know, old farmyards where there are tons of them. And I won't say the names because they're good residents of the town and I don't want to start something, but there are a boatload of non-biodegradable tires out there. They're just sitting. and will be a problem.
I can give you folks a little bit of information from the solid waste committee. When we talked about the household hazardous waste this year, we decided that we will not take any materials during household hazardous waste for free that we take during the year for a fee. So if bringing a TV is a fee during the year, then we're not gonna have them free on the hazardous waste day, because these things cost us a lot of money. The reason for having the hazardous waste day is these are materials that you really can't get rid of anywhere else. This company that takes them from us, something Recovery Systems, they're in Auburn, I think.
For the hazardous waste?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I mean, we have to dispose of that usually I mean, the fees that we charge the transfer station are very close to the actual cost of disposal. There might be a little bit extra for overhead, but again, that's just paying for staff. So the fees that we charge for these things, if it's not free, is basically break even for the town.
Right.
And so I think that it would be great if we could find a company that would take tires for free. But I think it's a long shot. But I also want to say that, we don't, even the hazardous waste day, we don't take commercial waste because it's a different category. It'd be like us, paying for Dave's electricity over at his shop, or Carol's laundry services for Airbnb. It's kind of one of those cost of doing business things where we don't expect the taxpayers to pay for commercial activity.
As I said,
So,
revenue neutral, hopefully.
yeah,
Right.
if we can find a way, that would be great.
Okay.
So anyway, I was just trying to say, if we're just gonna ask the solid waste committee to weigh in on this, they've already done that. So the three towns together are not interested in doing something like that. But if our town wanted to do that, that would be a decision that we five can make. So I would entertain a motion for the 3 permits to be
Can I ask
approved.
a question? Yeah. Sorry. So what are we being asked to do? To approve all of these?
The 3.
There are 3.
The 3?
There are
You've
just
got
3.
Scott
At the top,
Lucas's,
at the top.
Lucas
So
So
Auto
what are we
Parts.
doing
They're
with
the
the
only
ones below?
graveyards.
Nothing? Just,
Those are not graveyards. They are just other places that work on cars.
okay. So
So,
I just have something about one of those others involving town property that's on one of those properties that probably shouldn't be. I don't know if this is an appropriate time to bring it up. There's an old fire truck on one of the properties that somebody locally, and that's not in use anymore. Somebody locally had expressed interest in buying it and it was not entertained at all. But if it's town property and there's a potential buyer, it seems like something should be done there.
Is that something she should speak with you about?
Yeah, I'm trying to,
Okay.
I think I know what you're referencing, but yeah, just let me know and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's another some, but that would be a one-on-one. I'll schedule time.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
so I'd
Appreciate it.
like to make a motion to approve graveyard renewal application for Ken's Dragon, Sirius Antique, and Lucas Auto Parts and Salvage.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 3 applicants for renewal of their permits. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for
You are
coming,
free
guys.
to go.
I'll drop the sirens off to your place.
Okay, and we
What's that?
will move back.
I'll be over.
We're going to go back to boards, committees, commissions, and departments. I have a whole list of minutes that were received from the Age Friendly Committee in August, the Appeals Board in August and September, the Board of Assessors in September. You can just leave those with Eric and we'll get them passed around. Cemetery Committee in
Thanks.
September, Fairgrounds Working Group September, Planning Board in 2 meetings in September, the Road Committee from March, April, and September, Solid Waste and Recycling from July and October, the Trails Kiosk Report from May and June, and the Trails Committee from June and September. A huge thank you to everybody for getting those in. We have a lot of draft minutes, which is awesome. People are actually turning their minutes in fairly quickly, which was the whole point. And have these been posted up on the website now, Eric?
Yes, Kristen got those posted up for us.
So she's putting up the draft ones as well.
Yeah, so we moved on to putting up draft minutes for the Appeals Board and Planning Board as a matter of expediency. The other ones, they come in pretty quickly anyway, so I think we're in pretty good stead there.
Okay, that's really wonderful. We appreciate all the work all the committees are doing, and letting the rest of the community know about it is really helpful.
I just want to say that when I saw that list and the timeliness of it, I think Ralph would have been really happy about that. So that's all I'm going to say.
Very much so.
I came home from the last solid waste meeting and I wrote up my minutes, and an hour later I had sent them out. Instead of it being 3 months later, which is when we get ready to meet again. I'm
And
like-
solid waste, that's the other one that does draft. That's right. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, moving on to public communication. We have one member of the public left here in person.
There's a couple on
And we
Zoom, but-
have some others online.
2 copies each.
Okay. So we'll open it up first to the floor here, if you'd like to make any comments. Okay, is there anybody online? I see a couple faces there. I don't know how to answer these people.
Bruce acknowledged that he would like to speak first.
Okay,
Isn't Bruce on the assignments, or this is maybe
This is
something?
for
This is
public.
public.
Yep,
yep.
I'm monitoring the chat.
Good evening, Bruce. You have the floor.
Thank you. I didn't request they speak first, but in case I will. I want to take a moment to remember Ralph Eno. As a person who worked with him and as a person just in the general public, he just was a wonderful participant in our community. And Ralph and I had a few discussions when he was first running and after he was first serving about, gee, I'm a guy from Connecticut. Is anybody really going to listen to me? And I said, well, I think people from Readfield just simply listen to common sense and volunteerism and so forth. And that's really what he did. He just dove in. He had some expertise, I think, that was unique and a real gift to the town. And he just hit the ground running as a volunteer in our town. And it kind of makes me remember that it really doesn't matter how long you've lived in Readfield, for example. You know, I've been here, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and other people have been here for generations. And some people just came into town like Ralph. And it's really about where your heart and your head is. And I think Ralph really left this town a little bit of a better place. And that's a good memory to have of him. So thank you. And I hope we'll all just remember Ralph.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks. Dennis Price, are you wanting to speak?
Yes, please. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right. Well, I am here tonight to enter into the official record a statement of remembrance and appreciation for a Readfield resident that we lost on September 29th. Ralph Eno was a man that sat right there where you are and served the town of Readfield in a myriad of different ways. He was instrumental in the renovations of the library and fire station, and he was always looking at ways to make the town more accountable for spending and more beneficial to employees. Ralph was a husband, a father, a grandfather, and friend, and his life should be remembered for his legacy of giving, kindness, and generosity. This past June election saw Ralph help put the Maranacook Food Pantry on the ballot for voter support to the tune of $1,000, which passed, and it ensured that more vulnerable folks right here in our community will be able to provide for themselves and their children. In fact, in perfect Ralph fashion, he didn't even want an obituary, but he asked for donations to the food pantry in lieu of flowers. He was a selfless giver and a faithful servant, and that is how I will remember Ralph Eno. I also hope that's the way that people in Readfield remember him. He would probably have hated that I took time to do this tonight, but I am proud to have served on the select board with Ralph, and I am honored to be able to speak about him on the official record. I send my thoughts and prayers to Ralph's family as they continue to find healing and happiness during this time. And I just wanted to make sure that we put that into the official record. So thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. At least 3 of us here, I think, all worked with Ralph, and leaves a huge hole.
He was the kind of person that spoke eloquently, and when Ralph talked, people listened because he had a lot of wisdom and put it very nicely.
Yep.
Wise guy.
Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak? Okay, do we have Kathy yet? We don't, but if you can reach her, that would be fine, and if not, we'll do her.
She might be the telephone.
Ah, and if not, we'll do her whenever. So
Hold on.
Kathy, if you're online, can you let us know? Okay, so we will go to item 24-040 and consider the appointment of Kathy Landrum and Howard Lake to the Fairgrounds Working Group. I would suggest we just do Howard at this time because he is here with us, or he was.
He is.
Is he
Yes,
still?
yeah.
There he is. And we'll consider Kathy as soon as she's available this evening. So we have somewhere in our agenda. Oh, I'm too far.
While you're looking for that, I'll just note that technically the board did make one opening, but I don't see an issue if you wanted to appoint both of these folks to the committee. But that's certainly a discussion you can have.
I mean, we can wait for Kathy, or we can tell her when she comes, but I think that's a good call, really.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
they're
ask
both-
for that, because that's what I've been asking since day one of 2 citizens and kept being told, no, it's gonna make the thing too big. And these are 2 fabulous people that,
Correct.
Who have really
We're agreeing with you.
interesting backgrounds and
and
a lot to offer in the way of past service and involvement in different organizations. So a lot of expertise being brought to the table.
that'd be very much appreciated,
So
but we
can we just
can,
make a motion to do that?
can we,
Um,
it sounds like,
Do we
Can we
need
hear
to
from
Or do we
interview
need to wait
Howard
for
since
Kathy?
he,
What-
no, but
Kathy doing?
Howard's right there.
I understand. Eric, do we have to interview Howard? He has served on other committees, hasn't he?
You
Yeah,
look
no,
so eager to talk. Let,
I mean,
I
no.
let him talk, just a minute.
You're welcome to interview him, but you don't have to, because
Okay.
both Kathy and Howard have served on town committees in the past, so.
Okay, that's what I
Tell him he's
thought.
overqualified.
So Howard, would you like to say a few words?
Well, sure. I don't need to. I don't need to extend your meeting. That's for sure. But I've certainly been interested in the fairgrounds since the very beginning when Barbara Gilmore approached me and with her model of the fairgrounds village and said, well, this is really something the town ought to own. And then Jerry Bly was my next call, and we managed to get the Trust for Public Lands interested, and they acquired the property, and the rest is history. So it's been a great asset for the town, and I've certainly helped with the trails up there and along with the other trails in town, and it's been a great asset. So I'm very interested in it all.
It's awesome. And is there, thank you, Howard, but is there also something from
I
Kathleen
think
there
Kathy
now?
is also
Is she on
online
there now?
now. Is that correct? Are you there, Kathy? Is it possible for us to be able to hear her?
She's not muted.
She would need to
told her
be
to
on mute.
unmute. Can you unmute, Kathy?
She's on a phone in a car, is that what's
She's
happening?
zooming from her car.
Going up to
like,
Carabasset or to Sugarloaf or something like that?
somewhere between Kingfield and Farmington. If she goes any
So
farther south.
God knows what she's got for service. She may not have service.
She's pulled over where she has service. She wouldn't go
Can you
anymore.
hear me now?
Yay!
Oh,
Now
there
we
it
can
is.
hear you. There you are.
Yay. Ooh, sorry. So sorry.
Oh, that's
Good
okay. Well,
evening.
thank you. You were at our last meeting and gave us some great information on your background, and we really appreciate your willingness to serve on this committee. And the discussion we've had thus far tonight is we've received an application from you and from Howard Lake, and our inclination, I think, is to suggest that we appoint both of you to the committee.
Wonderful.
So, does anyone have anything else they'd like to ask either of these folks? Steve, I think you're chomping at the bit.
No, I have to comment that it's a very appropriate, like Halloween kind of appearance you're making. You kind of like this face, this dark, coming out of the darkness, and I kind of appreciate that. I appreciate your effort to even get here.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'm so sorry. We had an emergency patient and that was the way it went.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve both Kathy Landrum and Howard Lake for the Fairgrounds Working Committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Howard Lake and Kathy Landrum to the Fairgrounds Working Committee for a period beginning,
There's no limits.
it is.
There is.
Yep,
Today,
it's today through 6/30/24.
thank you.
Okay, that was your motion.
That was my motion. I didn't know what day it was.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to your input on the committee.
Oh, we do as well.
Guys,
Thank you. Looking
you.
forward to helping.
Okay, and we'll move on to item 24-041. Consider the appointment of Bruce Burgoyne to the Board of Appeals. We had Bruce's application before us previously. There were three applicants for two positions. So Bruce said, it's okay. I don't really have to do this. Now we have another position.
but not, okay, so both those people are still. gonna
They are
do it.
still on the board.
Oh,
We
so
had
they're-
someone else resign. Nate Rudy, we accepted his resignation at our last
Oh,
meeting
that's right.
because he's moving to, for a different employment opportunity. So, is there anything, Bruce, do you want to say anything for us?
I don't really have a speech or anything like that. I have been looking for a way to be involved in the town again. And I think the Board of Appeals is a good place for me. It's a deliberative board and I kind of like doing that sort of thing. Perhaps it's not as time consuming, but I guess that also comes with, you do need somebody who's somewhat flexible because it could become time consuming at some point. I read over the ordinance in its completeness that created the appeals board, and I think I can live up to the spirit of that and the details that it parses out for the board's actions and activity.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask Bruce? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bruce Burgoyne to the Appeals Board for a period starting today through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Bruce Burgoyne to the Appeals Board. For discussion, Bruce, I think it's very fitting that we're appointing you tonight after we've made that nice tribute to Ralph. It's kind of bringing some of this involvement full circle, and I'm very pleased. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 24-042. Consider the appointment of a warden and ballot clerks for the state referendum in November. It is listed in your packet there. It's to appoint Marilyn Palmer as the warden, and then there is a slate of ballot workers or election clerks. Will most likely not be needed at this election because it's just a referendum and the machine will tally everything, but we always appoint a slate.
I'll make a motion to approve Marilyn Palmer as the warden for the November 7th election and to include the slate listed in our packet.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the warden and election clerks for the upcoming November 7th election. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? We're moving along. Okay.
Two signatures required.
All right, old business, hear and consider an update on the fairgrounds project. We have, let me see how we're doing here. We've got 25 minutes here. We've got another 40, that's 65. If we're good, we can still get out of here by 8:30. I'm not saying we have to be short and shortchange anything, not at all, but just giving us a little update on our time.
Kathy, you can probably guess how I feel about that, and I will do my best to contribute to that effort. So, because it's really pretty straightforward, we've had just our first meeting of the Fairgrounds Working Group, and we also went out and reviewed, met on a Sunday morning and went around and walked to 6 different sites, 3 at the fairgrounds, 2 at the high school, and 1 at the beach. to look at those as all as possibilities. And I went to saw the superintendent today, and we're gonna, two of the ones that are of interest, there's, clearly at least one site at the fairgrounds, which are interested in. We're also looking at the possibility of a couple at the high school. We're gonna get an opinion from the superintendent and the school board, whether they would like us to come to their meeting on November 1st and just discuss that, but there's been no decision about which site. We're just gathering, we're in the gathering information phase right now. And, looking forward to having Howard and Kathy as part of that as well. So that's really where we are. We haven't made any decisions, we're just trying to gather information about what, there's a clear intent to, figure out a way to get a basketball court and figure out where to put it and what's the best. I'm gonna use the same process we did for the girls softball. So,
What was
we are.
the reaction today? Just curious.
Reaction to what?
What, you talked to the superintendent? Did he?
Oh, I mean, I think he was more receptive than I thought he might be. And I mean, bottom line is like, I've been making the petition, which I think is a very heartfelt one, that I think we need to do a better job of working together with the school district and the school district with us. And that's been my pitch to him right along. And I think he's responsive to that. And I think the school board will be pretty responsive to that. So the goal is to get it before the school board. And that doesn't mean that that's what we're going to do. We just need to know if it's an option.
Yeah.
Right?
Thanks for doing that. It's a big step.
Thank you.
And so that completes the update. So pretty much, I guess I'm understanding that the committee is on board with the plan as it stands, and you're looking at how basketball is going to work into that or not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are other fine details of the overall plan, but we feel like this needs the first attention.
Okay. Great. Look at that, 4 minutes. Okay, number 24-044 here, and consider an update on the Church Road sidewalk project. Would that be you, Eric?
Yeah, and I'll just,
Okay.
I'll be quick, just like Steve. Basically, we've been working on this project
I dare you.
for
I
quite
challenge
quite a while. And challenge accepted, Steve.
Time for
But basically, we've been continuing on with the design and review and public hearing process, and going back and forth between soliciting input, revising the plans, and working on the design. And we have in the packet, I included the web page that we have on the town website. And that really is the resource that folks should be looking at for information on this project as we continue to develop it. We have the most current plans. What I'll say is that following this most recent public hearing, the engineers, again, have the confidence to move forward with a design that I think responds very well to the feedback that we received, switching from one side to the next, making sure that we had crosswalks that were there to help slow traffic. We might even be adding a third to help slow things down a little bit. But the effort has been made by the engineers or by the town to listen and respond to those comments. So all that stuff's coming together, and the engineers will be coming up with a revised plan that has more detail. What we had from the last presentation was about a 25% plan. So they'll be moving up probably close to a 50% plan. They won't be getting into the details of designing curb heights and all of the inches and feet for where drainage basins will go, but they will get to the point of having a fairly complete plan that will specify more or less where everything's going to be. And then move ahead with a final public hearing. This is the one that will be recorded. We will have, I mean, we recorded the others as well, but this one will be recorded in the sense that the feedback will be submitted to the main Department of Transportation. We will have formal minutes and all of those things happening and being submitted when we do move forward with construction, if we do. That's going to happen in January or February, we expect. And then we'll have also a cost estimate at that time, and we'll be able to move forward with a proposal for town meeting in June that has a fair amount of certainty, both around the overall scope of the project and the cost, and then the town's share of that. So That's where things stand right now. I think we're heading in a very good direction, and I appreciate the public response that we've had so far from folks stopping us on the street to talk to us, or coming to the public hearings, or sending in letters and written comments. So that's where things stand.
Questions?
I think you won, Steve.
I don't know, I-
No, that was.
I'm gonna
3
give it to
minutes.
Steve.
Yeah.
But
That
I'm
was
gonna
3.
graciously say that Eric gave a good fight. That was awesome.
I asked a
Appreciate that.
question of Steve, so actually I think it was a tie.
Okay, I accept that. Perfect. That'll work perfectly.
All
I
right.
do want to just say one thing about that, that I think really it makes me very pleased about the town of Readfield in general. And that is that I went up to one of the engineers afterwards and just said, I thanked him for doing, I thought a pretty good presentation, and really listening to people's comments and incorporating them. They made really significant change from the first and the second that really paid attention to what people had said. And he said, we like it. We do projects all the time where nobody comes during these public hearings, and they get to the end and go, oh, we hate that idea. Well, yeah, now's the time, and they're really willing to make those changes that are possible to make. It's not gonna be perfect, but I was very, he was very impressed. I thought that was an interesting comment that, so often they do projects and don't get any public feedback until the very end. I like
Okay, we'll move on to 24-045, review the select board meeting calendar.
So I'll just say that this is the fully populated, the budget process that you approved set about 80% of your meeting dates through the end of the fiscal year. This is the gap filling. So now you can see where every select board meeting falls through the end of the fiscal year, along with important dates like town meeting and when budget committee meetings and things like that are happening. So that's what this is. It's color coded in your packet. If you need it in a different format, we can do that. But I just wanted to put that out there and ask for confirmation that these dates work for everybody.
And this is going to be posted on the website.
Yes.
Can you just make the squares the color though? Like the green is not. easy
Instead
to
of
see.
the outline.
Very hard.
The green is
Yeah.
hard to see.
Sure. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. I
Just
can do
sim-
that.
I
So
think it's
just fill the
simpler.
square.
Yeah, that would
Yep.
be great.
Absolutely.
So I'm just gonna be really anal retentive here and just go through this. So in October, we have one more meeting on the 30th. In November, the select board is meeting twice. In December, we're meeting once. In January, we are meeting 3 times because there's a joint meeting on the 31st with the budget committee. February has 2 meetings. March has 2 meetings, 3 meetings.
20th.
And there may be a 4th one, right, with the
It's
RSU?
Yeah,
is
that usually makes it
March.
4. So it's a busy month.
But we don't have the date on that one.
The RSU, well, the RSU has their date set, but they didn't say which one was involving the select boards.
Yeah, they usually wait until January, February to tell us that.
April has
But I
2
can ask.
meetings. May has 4. 1 week has 2, a Monday and a Wednesday.
I couldn't see the greens on that. Is that the
Yeah, I'm a
8th
really hard
and the
time seeing all
8th and the
this.
29th,
Okay.
yes. It is
I
very
almost
hard to
missed
see,
that one.
but
Okay.
it won't be on the next version.
And when you get a couple of them next to each other, it kind of like makes the middle one in the middle start glowing and you go,
Right.
third meeting in there.
Exactly.
And then there are 2.
Trying to trick me.
Exactly.
Then there are 2 meetings in June. There is a town meeting, but it's actually just the vote. So there's no gathering other
Thank you.
than we often gather to hear the election results of both people being elected and the questions. So if anybody can't make it to one of those meetings, the process, Eric, is to let you know. Is that correct?
Yeah, or the chair or vice chair. I mean, it's helpful because that way I can communicate it all directions, and that's kind of my role. So I'm happy to take those.
Right, I mean, it's fine
Yeah.
to let me know, but then I have to let Eric know because I'm not gonna send out 4 different texts when he can send out 1.
So happy to do it.
Possibly only be one in April when my sister-in-law is getting married. And I think I'm I might miss it.
Okay, that's fine.
Not the
wedding?
wedding.
I was gonna say.
No, not the
Chance of
wedding.
turning
Tell us how you
around.
feel about your sister-in-law, right?
And
Yeah.
Dave, you can tell us your absence months in advance if you
Yeah.
want. That's okay.
Well,
Things
usually
happen, you
I
know,
don't
we-
really
we-
go anywhere.
We do have a life.
Just a kid.
So, but the big thing is, we do need to have a quorum of 3. So if something comes up at the last minute, that's okay, you know, especially illness, but just let us know as soon as possible. Okay, we will move on then to our next item, which is new business. We have already done 24-046, so we'll move to 24-047, discuss the select board retreat and minutes. And that's somewhere down in here.
Do we have to accept these minutes?
I would
Officially?
appreciate that, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for September 11th retreat workshop.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the retreat workshop. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous,
Can I just ask a question about what something meant?
of course.
It was in Eric's about doing the plowing contract in-house versus contractors. What does in-house mean
For plowing?
for the plowing?
Oh, yeah, no, that would be, having town staff do the road plowing.
Oh, look
Yeah.
into that. Remember,
Yeah.
we were
You're
talking about,
Public Works, is that what that is?
No, talking about having town staff do the plowing.
Okay,
Potentially. I mean, it's very unlikely because it is associated with that phrase that you mentioned. I'm not gonna
Right.
repeat. No, I think that when we're seeing costs escalate 30%
right.
a year, we have to do our due diligence, and that's all that means. The due diligence might say, well, it's gonna be a big administrative burden and it's gonna cost us just as much. But we know that Scott Horn isn't going to be continuing past the end of his contract in 2 years. We know that a lot of construction companies are getting out of the business because it's heavy on equipment and labor, which is hard to find right now. And a lot of them would rather be, doing indoor construction work as opposed to being out in a plow truck at 2 a.m, spilling coffee and jarring themselves on mailboxes. So it's something that we're just going to look at. That's what that means. Yeah.
Are we required to put it out to bid? Seems like,
Yes, because of
Okay.
the size of the
That's what I thought.
project.
okay,
Right.
okay.
We could do like Fayette and call it the highway department. Or Chesterville even has a highway department.
do they have a highway?
No. But it's called the highway department.
Hey, sometimes you put the cart before the horse.
I know, you'd definitely call it the logging road department or something, I don't know.
And they operate out of a kind of a lean-to shack.
Yeah.
By the
Well, what
side of
I'll
the
say
road.
about all that is that I'm aware of the history of the public works situation. I know it's sensitive. Yeah, sorry. But I don't want to have people confused that this is a grand scheme or anything like that. This is just looking at the cost of services. Again, our budget goal to provide the services people want at the level of service they expect as cost effectively as possible. And if that's something we can do cheaper in-house and provide the service, then that meets that goal. But again, we don't know until we look at it, so.
Right.
And it wouldn't be a universal thing. It wouldn't be buying backhoes for doing ditch work. It wouldn't be that. I think that plowing is something that it is very costly, does take a lot of time and staff. And we do have some staff that are able to do this and, it's something to look at anyway.
Well, and another thing that we had talked about, maybe it was, well, when we were trying to get someone to bid on the last plow contract was going with another town and you had approached Winthrop and asked
Yeah.
if they would expand their municipal service to cover Readfield, and they were not interested because it's a lot of work and they'd have to buy more equipment and hire more people and people weren't available. And so,
I mean, bottom line is, no matter what, it's not gonna be easy. And so we just have to look at everything, right? I
well,
mean,
we should
just
look at
consider
everything
options. Yeah,
so that we can say, we looked at all these different options and here's what we found out. Here are the costs, here are the drawbacks, here are the benefits, and put it out for people to make a choice. As we should do with everything, and I think we try to do that. I mean, the sidewalk is a great example of that, putting it out there, taking feedback and having votes. Angelica, I have a question for you. On the list for me, I lost my photos from my phone. Do we still have the papers that we hung on the wall? Where we wrote down all the things we were gonna do? You did? Oh, good. I need if you can send me the pictures of them, because it had a little bit more information than just what we listed here.
I think
so
Sean
that I-
deleted them to hide his murdering of the spelling of personnel. Or Cottonelle or whatever else.
So that I can, get busy on my part there because I didn't pick up a different major part. And I just want to remind us all that our commitments was the last thing is that we'll do a 1-minute check-in on our goals at coming meetings. So expect that Sean is going to remind us to do that when we set the agendas.
I thought we were gonna do it today, but
So, well, if you have anything to report, go for it.
one thing I was gonna say, so I had a thought. So one of my first things I did when I first got on was look at the town page and the businesses, and I was like, there's 70 businesses in Readfield, what the heck? And I started going through them. A lot of them are no longer, but there's a lot, like I keep finding more that are here that nobody knows about. So I was cleaning up the list. I was wanting, possibly as an addition to the messenger, once a month, put like a business profile, like who wants us to do that, like they do in the advertiser, just a profile of like a local business people. may
Sort
not
of a
be
chamber
familiar
of
with.
commerce kind of thing.
Yeah,
Where you
and just
promote a
like,
local person.
they come to us and say, I want to be that next person with like, a photo of the owner maybe and like a description and how long they've been in business and what do they do, and just as quick, but something just added at the end of the messenger somewhere in there, if nobody objects.
Well, I don't object and
How could you object to that?
I thought what you were doing at the post office was nice, but it's difficult because it's large and you gotta print it and make it look right and you gotta get it together. But you could do a page and have, if you have, I don't know what we have. Maybe we have flower people so there are 3 florists in town.
Right.
Or
That was
there
the-
are
that was the
7
first thing you
farmers,
could
so you could do a farmer's page and you
Uh-huh.
could have a little thing for each of
That's good
them
too. Yeah.
in
That's a good idea.
sort of a
Yeah.
collage kind of format.
Yep. It's
Um,
something to just. get the
Because
word-
if
that-
you want
I'm
to get
sure
through 70 businesses, you're gonna have a lot of months there.
No, there's a lot of them, I'm sure people are, like the gardener in the nursery in Kent's Hill, I'm like,
Right,
Well, the new
it's
one.
great.
the new one, right, Eric.
Yeah, he's great.
I
And
think
he could be on the fairgrounds committee because he knows pollinators. I was like, wow, he goes, no, I'm not interested.
He's a little busy right now, I think, just getting started.
Great
His
guy, though,
wife
very
was a
wise.
skier.
She's a former student of mine.
Yeah, that's why they moved back.
not because
In
of
part,
Steve.
Not because of me.
No, because she had grown up here and skied
Because
here.
what? Because of Steve?
Jeez. Now
There's a
that
lot of
seems odd.
Sorry.
Although I did convince her to coach the middle school Nordic team this year, so that's cool.
That's nice. Okay,
Can
so.
I ask, where did I see something about the fire station? And something new,
In the goal, in the retreat and stuff, you mean?
like asking for money for something new. Did I imagine something? Because I thought on
I
the
didn't
agenda,
read that, so I might have missed that somewhere.
because I'm not finding it now, but I swear I read it at 5 o'clock this morning. Maybe the fact that it was 5 o'clock this morning has something to say about it, but I don't see it now.
So I guess I would just ask back to the commitments thing that we all
Okay.
be just at least thinking about things so that, a 1-minute report out is really brief, like I haven't really gotten anywhere on it, or I've made a spreadsheet and I'm working on getting started. Just whatever small bits it is, would be great.
I could make a really quick branch out to that then, because in my meeting today with the superintendent, I also did get a verbal commitment to him to support the opening the school up for senior citizen walking. Okay, and making that so that, senior citizen that want to head that up, they could have a key, pass key to be able to get in and have the school open for walking in the winter time for them, which is
Right.
awesome. And we also talked about taking and changing the mowing schedule on just the backfield, the one that's to the west side of the snowmobile trail that goes diagonally across the top of the sledding hill, right? On the other side of the stone wall. Right now, Julie Hall from Mount Vernon hays that. They don't pay her, but she gets the hay and keeps the fields mowed and stuff. But one of the things that, we're trying to do is just increase places where there is some open land that we can just make nicer for better for wildlife. And so one of the things that might help just, in terms of like, we're converting some of the meadow into at the very least, a soccer/softball field. But all we'd have to do is just change the mowing. So instead of haying that, the conservation committee or something would mow it once in like mid-October, that just makes it so like we started doing that 4 years ago up at the farm, up the road from us. And it's been amazing. Like already we had like bobolinks nesting all over the field, which had been gone, for the longest time. And it just adds to the biodiversity in the town for like, it'll have the same net effect. It's still just that field will be mowed and it'll
Well,
keep it
but-
from growing back up.
I mean, you can't say it has the same net effect. Hayfields are hard to come by.
Well, if you
So-
wanted hayfields, I have other hayfields that I'm having trouble. I've been trying for years to get someone to hay one of our other fields.
Well, it might not be good.
But it is. That's just, it is.
It might be really bad hay.
Nobody wants it.
You seen my hay, Sean?
I haven't, but
All right.
I buy plenty of hay, so I know a bit about hay. Yeah.
So, well, and it's
So anyway,
important. there's-
that's my
Yep.
two other things just we've been talking about. And so I think making progress, I'm trying really hard on that RSU thing. I think
That's
we're making
great.
progress.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate that. Okay, so then the next thing is to consider our fiscal year 2024 budget goals. This is 24-048, and we are right on schedule again now. Thank you, everybody. So Eric, what do you have for us here? Are we just considering what we set in the prior meeting?
Well, no, I mean, you certainly do have some budget goals, and there's a real strong correlation between what the town spends money on and what we prioritize for work, and what the select board has established as goals. So that's definitely part of the discussion, but really I wanted to give an open-ended forum, a place for the board to suggest their priorities from in the budget process specifically for either town-wide goals or individual areas of focus. And I think that we could pretty easily just say, well, it's the same as what the overall goals were. But I think there's a little bit of difference there, and I just wanted to give an opportunity for you folks to present that if you felt it was necessary. And I'll just say that my budget goal is always to, again, do that, the services people want, the level of service they expect as cost effectively as possible. But I do expect that cost effectively as possible this year is probably going to be in a modest increase again, because we're still dealing with some of the trajectory as the RSU is from the last couple of years. So that's what this piece is for.
Well, I think it's, I'll speak for myself, but I think at the end of this, we should give Eric a few statements that any of us have made and say that we all support them, so that the budget committee has something to work with. And Eric has something to go to each of the boards and committees and say, here's what the select board is setting as a goal. So it gives them some direction, because otherwise people are like, well, I'll just ask for everything. Which might not be what we are comfortable asking for. And the more information we give them up front, it'll be easier for them to provide good information that is usable, instead of things having to be cut down and pared. I think it's really important personally that we support our employees. And there's a financial component to that, as well as an appreciation component. I would like to make sure that both are taken care of. And I'm not saying that we have to do any wild increases, but I think we had mentioned it a couple meetings ago that minimum wage is going up again in January.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure, obviously, we can't have anybody who's under minimum wage. But if we have people who are very close to that, we have to be cognizant of adjusting. Because otherwise, I think you have a huge decrease in morale. Then you'll start having employee turnover, and employee turnover is more costly than a small raise. So there is that. And I don't know what's in the contract, Eric. Do you remember? Did we
We're not due
negotiate?
for a wage reopener until next year, but I think that we were 3 or 4% this year. It is fixed in the collective bargaining agreement, so yeah, I don't recall the number, but it was, I'd say lower end of single digits. But I can confirm that. And I do owe you also, as you noted, an assessment of the impact of that minimum wage increase on employees. Generally, not talking specifics.
Right.
But I can have those for the next meeting in October.
Anybody else? Things you'd like us to focus on?
I guess I would like to see before thousands of dollars are spent on professionals, let's say, for example, landscape architects, grant writers. We've got a lot of very talented, very smart people in this zip code that work in all kinds of sectors with all kinds of talents. Or hiring people to do some of those jobs, or even like the stuff at the library. I'm ecstatic that we're asking people to kind of refinish the upstairs library. And asking residents first, hey, does anybody, I mean, not everybody can be a grant writer, but I know several that probably could do it. And if it's a decent grant, it almost sells itself, you know? I mean, I'm just saying, we spent thousands and thousands, and before we would hire a landscape architect, we've got a lot of people in town that are amazing gardeners. Just ask the public first. And another point I was going to do with the communication part is post on the post office, the openings in the committees. It need a lot of update because it's always changing, but hey, you know, just so people see, oh, they still need somebody on that committee, or might catch someone's eye. I don't know, but I'm excited how many people are getting involved, but just ask locally if we have somebody with those talents before we spend a lot of money on professionals.
Good suggestion.
Yep, it is. It can be tricky if my job is writing grants. I probably want to get paid for doing my job.
Right, but
I might give advice, but I probably wouldn't want to work for
I
free.
agree, but I don't think they'd charge the town top dollar, like for a professional grant writer. You know, they probably don't want to do it for free, but they probably won't do a total professional fee. And if you've got several, it's like, let's talk to a couple and say, what do you bring to the table? Why do you think you're qualified for this? So, you know, it could be a little time consuming, but it could be a big savings. And I don't think for the town people would cut us a little slack.
Anybody else?
I would just really like to see that all the line items that we've been working towards are at a finality point with completion, construction. You know, if we have other costs for like the salt shed, you know, if there's something else that's come up to do with that, because we haven't done it yet and it needs to get done like yesterday, things like that, I'd like to see, especially the facilities at the beach. You know, there's more holes in those roofs now, I think, than roof, you know. So just things like that. I just people want the beach to look nice. We should make it look nice.
So there's maybe summarize saying finishing planned projects and
Which can be done with volunteers too.
Yeah,
I've said
yeah.
it. If we get the roof and I'll go down. So
You're talking about the roof at, where at the beach?
on
The shelters.
the
The
shelters.
shelters, oh,
Picnic table things.
I'm just, that,
Sheds.
no, the swing set. I mean, that's like the focal point of our town. And
That's wing set?
the swing set, the,
No, I think that's
No,
a
no,
bit of
the
an
beach-
exaggeration.
no,
If
the
that's a
beach
focal
in-
point of our town, we're
No,
in
no,
trouble.
no,
Hope it isn't.
no, the beach in general
Okay.
is, you know, and it's just abominable.
You
You know, somewhere safe for the people to play. We used to travel all over the area for a decent fairgrounds because we didn't, We didn't stay here, we went to Augusta, we went to different schools. I'm just saying that the beach is a
Yeah,
focal point.
Gotcha.
And that's just,
Didn't we apply for a grant at the beach at one point for playground equipment, or was that before your time?
It was one of the first things we looked at, and we had discussed it, but I'm not sure we ever found volunteers to do that.
to do what?
To apply for a grant for the playground at the beach.
It was a
Okay,
lot. It
let's
was like
start-
$25,000. Those things are so not cheap.
For some
And you
reason, the word
can't,
kaboom sounds familiar, but
you can't go with
Yeah.
wood anymore.
No.
Everybody
Yeah.
flips out about the arsenic and the pressure treated.
And you can't play
Right.
on tires.
I went
like
through
I did
that
when I
in
was
Wayne a
kid.
few
Did
years.
you?
Yeah, really.
Right.
Can't string up a tire swing. That's not gonna
Yeah.
cut.
that-
We got plenty of
that went all
tires.
bad.
Yeah, I know.
But the beach is a whole plan that we're
Yeah.
developing, right?
Yes, we do have money in this year's budget for starting to work on that master plan for the beach facility. So that does exist.
And so is that going to be a goal that those committees are going to be working on?
We'll certainly pass it along, yeah.
But
I'm hearing you say that, yes. We need to get that beach plan going so that we can actually get something down there.
But also, like, again, listen to the folks early on. Where we have all kinds of plans and this is what we want,
Yeah, we'll continue
You
to
know.
do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
that'd be great.
Steve, Dave, anything in particular?
I don't have a lot of particulars. I agree with Eric on most of the services. You gotta get the most bang for your buck and assess and explore every option or way you can do that. My question sometimes, and I touched on this a little bit at the retreat, is I struggle with the line of what is the government or the town's responsibility and what is personal responsibility. So how do you make that, so those are my things. That is this a necessity that the town should be taking care of, or is this everybody ought to get free cable TV, just as I'm just using that as an example. Where does that end? What is the start and stop there? Those would be my questions when we get into spending money and budgeting things. Because I'm kind of about personal responsibility. It's not, and don't take me the wrong way. I hear things about, affordable housing and elderly housing, but is it the people's responsibility or the government's responsibility to provide housing for people? Or is it the people's responsibility and their family's responsibility? That's the question. Those kinds of things are the things that I question.
Yeah,
And we
I can
get it.
definitely bring that across to the boards. So basically, really, kind of the question about the role of government, the scope of the
Right.
services being provided, and then making sure that we ask the question of, is it a want or a need, right? Is that,
Yeah, kind of sums it up.
Well, I think you're hitting on that, the level, the three things that Eric mentioned, the level of service that's expected.
Right.
And so that's sort of taking a pulse on the community. And we keep thinking, I'll use the school as an example because we have no control over that. We keep thinking that people will eventually vote the school budget down because it keeps going up and up and up and up in cost. But yet it doesn't get voted down, which means what they're saying is that they want that level of service, whatever that is. And of course, it's just a majority. So we may be pretty split. A lot of people may be thinking this isn't really a need, this is a
Yeah.
want. But the need people, get 52% of the vote. And so then that's what we do.
Mhm.
And that's the hard part for us, is to try and predict what is that balance. And so trying to put forth the correct items for the voters to vote on,
Right.
so that we give people an option. That's kind of how I see the budget process, is trying to take in all these different requests and trying to say, is it reasonable?
Right.
And will the good people of Readfield make a good decision? I trust they always make the good decision, so. Even if it's not the way I would have made it,
Right.
it's still the good one because we all did it together.
I've talked to a few people about, and I'm not talking low income housing because people keep thinking that's what we're talking about, but affordable, like maybe some of our youngsters could stay in the area if they could afford a home. And most people say it would take a major contractor to make a big commitment to the town to go for it and say, this is where we want to go, and not necessarily the town. So it'll take a lot of,
I think the point we're looking
Ideology
at with
and-
affordable housing with the town is that we as the governing body would say, this is something we would like to see in Readfield. Please consider coming to Readfield to build these houses because we think there are people who would buy them here in Readfield. And we'll work to promote that.
Yeah, no,
I think
don't
that's
I've
really
heard-
where we're going.
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody say that the town should provide housing. That's
Right.
definitely, I think, out of the picture. but-
that's where I think we're coming from.
Yeah,
is
absolutely. yeah.
Promote it,
Provide,
pay for it, maybe.
yeah,
But I mean, it is a need, and it's one of those ones that was identified by a lot of people in the comp plan, and you're hearing the same thing from most people, I think. But yeah, those are things where we would have to develop partnerships with Avesta and Augusta Housing Authority and other towns and work, to get somebody in here that has that capacity. So I think absolutely, those are really good points about thinking about those things, but making sure we do it at the right level and don't over invest time, resources, or energy for things that people don't necessarily have a lot of interest in.
One
I
paid
know
for
when
it.
you go on Route 135 between 17 and 202, going in, when you get into Winthrop, there are a number, I'm gonna say 6 or 7 one-story houses that are duplexes that have a garage. I don't know if the garages are on the ends or they're in the middle. And they look like they're probably 2-bedroom homes, and they're obviously what I would call affordable housing. People can most likely afford to live there for about the same price as rents, as opposed to having yards with boats and all kinds of stuff and upkeep and maintenance. And I think something like that could be possible in Readfield because you're still talking about people who have cars and who are mobile and who are going somewhere to work. One of the things we've talked about with the Age Friendly Committee in terms of affordable housing for seniors, and the reason I don't think it would work in Readfield is we don't have the services here. So if you're not driving, you don't want to be in Readfield. You may not even want to be in Manchester. Maybe, because at least Manchester is contiguous to Augusta, where you have medical treatment, you have all kinds of shopping, you have some access to some forms of public transportation, much shorter emergency service times. And so I think some of our problems are just geographic. That, are we going to ever get anybody to come here to be interested in these things? Because is there anyone who would want that service here?
I guess the other thing that makes me think of Catherine though, is that I think we need to be open. What we can do as a select board is I don't, you've already said it, we're not gonna get into the business of building affordable housing. But elderly care is one that, I think of a lot. I don't know why, but
Are you getting
just,
old, Steve?
well, some people I know are, but the thing about, let's look carefully at our land use policy and our zoning and stuff. I mean, I'm struck by the idea of what they call New Zealand granny flats, where if you want to build a little tiny house out back of your house for your mother to live in or your grandparents, you can do that, So do we need to make sure because I think a big part of, not that I say we should go back to the 1700s, but one of the things that I like about the past was that families took care of their own a lot,
They live
right?
together,
And live together,
multi-generational families.
multi-generational,
and that kind of thing,
living.
I'm fine with,
you know.
but promoting something that would turn into like a subsidized housing kind of thing is that to me, that's crossing the line,
Right.
or even creating something or promoting something that is like subsidized housing in any way. I just personally don't feel like if I live to be 80, it's not somebody else's responsibility to put me where it's mine. or my family's.
Right.
And
I
not
think-
anybody
Dave,
else.
if you
I
live to
think
be
what
80, you can live
Steve's-
in my basement anytime you want.
Okay.
I think Steve's really hitting the nail on the head is to make sure with voter approval, because anything with land use and zoning is always with voter approval, but to put forth
That's great.
Ideal.
Yeah, I like
zoning
that.
that makes it affordable for people to do those things in our town. Whereas a number of years ago, I had to fight to have a in-law apartment in my house.
Right.
And then we changed that ruling in Readfield, and, you know, that just makes sense, right? And so there are all kinds of things like that that we can do. I still think there are gonna be limitations because of where we're located. But I mean, for instance, we have the Balsam House here in Readfield, which is an awesome facility. But again, these aren't people who are, they're not living independently on their own in that facility. That's more of a care facility. And they are on the Manchester end of Readfield. They're very easily located close to services, so.
Well,
And I think maybe that is the key for us to get on board with what we're talking about, or what we would or wouldn't support with those things, because I think some people's perception of it is different. And you hear people say, well, my kid can't afford a place in Readfield. Well, I mean, do they have places you can afford in Martha's Vineyard? I mean, they don't make affordable places. I mean, you have to work to that and to be able to buy something in this town. If that's where, I'm sorry, the prices are high, but
Well, but for instance, can we have places where there are half-acre lots where you can put a house? Can you put a duplex, like the ones on 135 in Readfield on a small piece of land? That makes it a little bit more affordable. You know, you only have to drill one well, one septic system, you can have 2 or 3 houses. So I think those are the kinds of things that we can encourage the
This-
planning board to look at. Maybe it's already in there. I don't,
Well,
I haven't read it recently enough to know.
I guess I'll say I'm glad the board's talking about this because we're actually being effectively forced to have this discussion by the state. with
Right.
Right.
there is
2003.
legislation up
There
now.
is.
Right.
And so I'm glad you're talking about this, and I think that it really is going to be a priority over the next 6 months, 8 months to develop and, you know, have an involvement with those land use changes, because we effectively are going to have either this June or shortly thereafter some revised land use ordinance that addresses the state's requirement that we modify our housing ordinances to make them, you know, allow more housing in town somehow. So.
But it seems that if you have a piece of property and you stick to the guidelines, like you're set back from the road and it should go. I mean, if you're just talking about like a little mom's house or your youngster on your property, there's a lot of little hurdles, but if you clear those, I don't know that the planning board would say, no, we don't approve of
Well,
that.
they wouldn't necessarily, and, but the state is basically saying that we need to change what we allow, so that if the setbacks don't allow housing, but this is just one example, I'm not sure it's even relevant, but they might say, well, you need to change your setbacks because you're excluding, you have a 100-foot setback, and that means you have to have like a 3-acre lot minimum or something. Those are the type of things that they're wanting us to look at and potentially change. So they were generous and gave us some money to help pay for reviewing those changes, but it's, I guess I can't say it's generous. I don't like the whole idea of it, but we do have some funds to help with the cost of this, but it is going to be a big part of the discussion in the next 6 months.
And I just want to clarify, because I know the answer to this one already. It's not that Eric doesn't want us to do this. It's that it's the state telling the towns what they're going to have for
Yeah,
zoning.
I support housing. I just don't like state mandates.
And I
So,
understand. I
It's a
agree
local
with both of
control
them, yeah.
issue, but it's something we're kind of coming around to anyway.
And if I,
So we needed to extend, I would say, for 5 minutes so that we can do our, finish this discussion and see if there's anything people wanted to discuss in the upcoming meetings, future agenda items.
Make a motion to extend the meeting by 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second for a 5-minute extension. All those in favor? Sure, thank you. Unanimous. So is there anything we want Eric to specifically say to the boards, committees, and the budget committee? I think hold costs as close as possible to what they were this year. I think we'd all be happy with that. I think we've talked about not expanding things, but finishing things that we've already begun. So that's a good thing.
And if you can cut anything, please do not harm anybody. It's just, I keep going back to that comprehensive plan thing, that 60% of our residents are considered senior citizens or 60 or above. That's a lot on fixed income that don't have a lot of options. Are there ARPA funds still anywhere? And is there a deadline on using them or losing them?
Yeah, so we do have some ARPA funds available, fair amount actually, and I think we have 190,000.
Whoa,
The deadline for the use of those is currently December 31st, 2024. So we would
so
look
that should
at,
be part of,
yeah, absolutely.
this
Looking at
budget.
use of ARPA funds should be part of the budget process.
and
Yeah,
does the school have their own?
Yes.
they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That they've been using for various things.
I'd love to see the list of what they've,
All those desks that are now in the storage containers,
that are now what?
in the storage containers.
I've heard that they were being dumped. I don't even want to get into that, but
Yeah, let's not.
yeah, let's not go there.
We only
That's a
have 3 minutes.
5-hour
We got 3 minutes left.
But the bathrooms, geez.
So we want to be fiscally conservative.
Yep.
But we want to still provide the services that people expect. Or we want to offer to provide those services. Okay. Is there anything anyone has for other business, upcoming meetings and future agenda items? Anything we're not covering that you'd like us to see?
For some reason, when I was looking at our agenda on the calendar, I could see the managers' reports and the treasurers. On my phone today, I was trying to do it at my lunch hour, and I could not find them anywhere.
They weren't there.
I was
That's
gonna
why.
say, is there a different way we're doing it now that?
No,
No, they've always
They've-
been late. I'll just
Oh,
put it
but
that
I
way.
Eric
saw them
didn't
this
have them
morning,
ready.
but I couldn't see them at noon.
they were not there this
They
morning.
were not there this
Yeah,
morning.
I added them throughout the day as they were completed.
Okay, then.
Maybe you didn't see them this morning and saw them this afternoon. Maybe we reverse that.
I don't- But, okay. That's fine then. Never mind.
That's awesome.
No,
Question whether you're
it's
losing it
only
or
fine
not.
if you guys are
It
okay with
could
that,
be.
because those reports do usually come in the day of the meeting.
That's fine. Okay. I
But
thought
that's
well,
just
we were doing
my-
something different.
I would
one of
like
those
to s-
sitcom things, it's not you, it's me.
I'd like to say that I really appreciate the Friday updates.
Yeah.
I find
those are
those
great.
really useful. And I think it's a really good record of what's going on in the town. And it's a good talking point for anybody who wants, people who ask us anything, we can tell, or we can talk to people about it if we choose.
Maybe that's what I read from last Friday.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
was thinking, I
there
bet it
a-
was.
yeah,
Oh,
fire
there you
department,
go.
it was a donation of equipment.
Never
That's
mind.
probably what it was, yeah.
Oh, yes,
The
that's where the
donation.
fire department thing was.
I was
There
gonna
was
say, I
donated
swear I'm
equipment.
That's what
cracking
it
up.
was. You're right, right.
I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I have a motion and a
Oh, I
second. All in
voted.
favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We're all done.
Thank you.
Thank
John,
you
you're a
for
good
being here,
person.
Joel.